Back to Harbaugh. The Columbus Dispatch, as we said before, has this amazing video of health care reform advocates and opponents protesting early this week outside the office of U.S. Ohio Congressman Mary Jo Kilroy. Let's listen as the reporter describes this incredible scene of Americana.
At one point, a man whose sign said he had Parkinson's sat down in front of healthcare opponents.
If you're looking for a handout, you're in the wrong end of town. Nothing for free over here. You have to work for everything you get. Good to know.
No, I'll pay for this guy. Here you go. Start a pot. I'll pay for you. I don't want a handout. I'll decide when to give you money. There, here's another one. There you go.
You love a communist.
Indiana Congressman Mike Pence is the House Republican Conference Chairman. Mr. Pence, thank you for watching that really, I think, disgusting picture of some pretty nasty people. I kept thinking, and this isn't partisan, I think Ronald Reagan would have said, those people are awful. Ronald Reagan would have sat down with a guy and talked to him and found out his situation. Now, maybe he wouldn't have handled it the way a Democrat would, but I don't think he would have been that dismissive of that guy's plight. He wasn't faking it. That guy had a problem, health-wise. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's despicable, a man sitting on the street with Parkinson's to be berated by that in that kind of a setting is, I think that is awful, and I would denounce that in the strongest terms. But I do think it gives you a glimpse, Chris, not to excuse that behavior, but I had a constituent ask me at a town hall meeting this week, said, out in Washington, D.C., do they know how upset we are? Do they know how angry we are that they continue to drive this government takeover of health care and now begin to twist the rules of the House and Senate into a pretzel to pass it? And I had to tell them I didn't think so. I didn't think the majorities out here in the House and Senate or the White House really understand just how frustrated the American people are, but it doesn't excuse that kind of behavior for a second.
What did you think of that guy's idiom when he said, we don't give handouts over here? Was that sort of in a reference to the fact we in America, as opposed to socialist Europe? I was trying to figure out what that meant, over here. It sounded like in this country, we don't do it the way other countries do it. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really don't know what he was talking about. Frankly, it just seemed very mean to me, quite frankly. And I just would share with your revulsion at that kind of a confrontation. I saw that kind of stuff during the, demonstrations over the war in Iraq. People would, act in ways that I didn't think reflected well on them or really reflected the character of this country, and that looks like another one of those cases.
We got a new Wall Street Journal NBC poll out, and as you know, these are pretty darn nonpartisan. It finds that a 14-point swing has occurred favoring Republicans on handling health care. Look at this, 35% now approve of Republicans' handling of health care. It's not exactly going through the roof, but it's a lot better than it was. It was in the 20s. 59% disapprove, but back in January, as I said, it was 26 positive, 64 negative. So in this game of difficulty where nobody's loved in politics, it looks like you're picking up a beat or two.
Well, I don't know that Republicans are picking up. I think it's a combination of two things. I really do believe the public is rejecting this massive government takeover of health care, and I think as a result of what happened at the Blair House, what happened at our retreat, I think the public is starting to take a look at Republican ideas. The idea that we ought to allow Americans to purchase health insurance across state line, the idea of medical malpractice reform, covering pre-existing conditions with the savings from that. I don't know if it's being attracted to Republicans as much as being attracted to Republican ideas that I believe if we can scrap this bill, I believe we could achieve some incremental step-by-step reforms on a bipartisan basis that would reflect those ideas and be broadly accepted by the American people, Chris.
Why didn't you do that when you had President Bush, the second President Bush, and you had control of both houses? You speak positively of the need for reform, and yet when the Republicans control both houses and the White House, you never do this stuff.
Well, and I would add that what we did do was in the wrong direction.
But you didn't do the things you just ran through. But you didn't do what you just said you would do.
Right.
It's woulda, coulda, shoulda. It sounds like to a lot of Democrats, like every time a Democrat tries to do health care reform, you guys very logically come along and say, here's a more modest package. But you never offer that more modest package when the Democrats are in power because you don't have to do it.
Well,
so
no,
you don't
actually,
want to do it.
I think Republicans actually kind of doubled down on big government solutions. You know, I was one of the 25 Republicans who opposed the prescription drug entitlement on the floor of the Congress during that famous 3-hour vote. You know, frankly, Republicans didn't bring solutions based on limited government and free market alternatives to the public to deal with this. We did the big government solutions. I think it's part of the reason Republicans were shown the door in 2006. But this new government takeover of health care takes the big government ideas of the Bush administration on health care and puts them on steroids. And I think the public, apart from liberal Americans who are entitled to their opinions, I think decisive majorities across this country are rejecting the big government approach. They know it'll result in more deficit and debt and higher taxes, and they want us to do the incremental, step-by-step approach that gives them more power, gives them more economic freedom, and I think we can do that if we stop the bill, Chris.
Okay, well, you may get a chance. If they stop the bill, then maybe you can push the Republican proposals for the first time. Thank you very much, Congressman Mike Pence, for joining us from Indiana. He's on the House. He's up there in the House right now. Ron Brownstein's political director of political media. I mean, that is a pretty... I saw you shaking your head positive. Right. I know you're a straight arrow here, but the fact is, it is a fact. No. Republicans offer these wonderful-sounding moderate alternatives, but only in the face of a Democratic progressive suggestion.
The story is a little more nuanced. I mean, the fact is that these are ideas that Republicans had during when they had unified control of the House, the Senate, and the White House under Bush. Some of them did pass the House. The idea of association health plans did pass the House. Medical malpractice at one point did pass the House. The interstate sale of insurance never passed the House because that is a much more controversial idea than it's usually explained to be, because it essentially allows the state that regulates least to set the rules for every state. But the fact is that all of these ideas were never able to achieve consensus when Republicans controlled government. They could not get them out of the Senate. They could not get 60 votes. And in essence, they're now asking
Obama.
Really didn't want to do it. Well, they're asking Obama to accept ideas that they could not pass when they had unified control of government. So that is a key point here in terms of looking at the alternative.
Some new numbers here in the Wall Street Journal NBC poll. It shows that 36% now say the president's plan is a good idea. 48% say it's a bad idea. 46% say it would be better to pass it, but 45% say it would be better to keep the current system. That last number hangs up there. After months and months of ridicule of individual parts, of this sausage making, of this fights over the public option, of all this negativity, and yet you have a slight 1-point advantage for passing this.
They're back to even,
So what happened?
Well, Gallup, ABC, Washington Post, AP, the overall pollster.com, or my colleague Mark Blumenthal, their assessment, they're all about the same now, where you have somewhere around 45% saying, yeah, do it, maybe slightly more or about the same saying, don't do it. What you're seeing is, and by the way, in your poll today, I think probably for the first time on that question, that 46-45 question, a plurality of independents say do it.
But if you're a Democrat, bottom line,
the basic,
be prescriptive. If you're a Democratic member, you have to vote for it looking at those numbers.
I think you have to vote for it looking at those numbers, especially when you consider the ancillary cost. If this goes down, and what it says about the overall ability of Democrats to govern, what it might mean for Obama's approval rating, what it might mean for Democratic turnout in November. On balance, politically, this is an argument for doing it, although, it's not a slam dunk.
That's one reason why Lynn Wellesley of California is sticking with this bill. There's a big push to be solid on this thing. Show some solidarity and be with your constituents. Anyway, Ron Brownstein, thank you.
It's an up or down, almost parliamentary vote now, Chris.
I think it's a no confidence vote. Up next,
absolutely right.
You vote against it. Up next.